welcome to Friday. We have done it. We got back from our long vacation, and it was going to take a day or so before we could get back into watching Fullmetal Alchemist, but we have, and now we have finished it. So this is going to be our Fullmetal Alchemist Cour 4 review. And as a reminder, this is the original series, 2003, I think? 2003 so. Original series. And we have just finished the entire series. This covers episodes 42 through 51, and what an adventure it has been these last... The final 10 episodes are bonkers. They really are. Like, the other 3 cores, I know I've described the show before as like, you know, it's this there's this childhood innocence, and then things start to get a little more mature and it gets crazier. But then, for whatever reason, in the last 10 episodes, they decided that they would, like, crank the craziness meter up. And it's almost like someone from across the room was like, hey, Al, can you... Al's a bad choice because it's a character. Hey, Ben, can you crank the craziness meter up to 11? And Ben's like, what level did you say? 11. 100? No, 11. 100, got it. And then they just cranked it up. Like, there are so many things that happen that, honestly, the show became, on some episodes, it was, first off, it was nuts, but it was hard to follow. Because something would happen, and me and Mal would look at each other and they're like, what? And then, some other point in that episode, something else would happen and be like, where did this, what? And then the next episode, it'd be some other ridiculous thing. I'd be like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, where did all of this... Like, they...
Wait. This will contain spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably obvious. But yes, this is going to contain spoilers for the show. So first thing we'll try and do is recap what happened in these 10 episodes. And it'll help us also explain our feelings on what madness this was. So, in the last core, it ended by Alphonse being turned into a bomb.
Yeah.
And then this core starts with Scar being like, hey, I'm gonna make you not a bomb. And I was like, why are you doing this? And Scar's like, he maybe not tell Al then, but he tells Lust, like, the next episode, that, like, you know, I have seen the love in your heart that you brothers have for each other, and
my brother gave me the arm to save me, and I'm doing this to save you. Yeah,
that kind of thing. Anyway, so his whole plan has been to try and lure the military into Lior so he can create a Philosopher's Stone. So he gets the people of Lior out of there, and then Alphonse is like, oh god, I'm a bomb. And Scar's like, hold on, I got this. And he's like, zip, 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 zip. Now you're not the bomb. Also, I've transferred all of the souls of the dead Ishbalans into your body. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But okay. So then,
the
military comes in. Archer comes in with all of his men. And Scar has been secretly turning the entire city into a giant transmutation circle. And then he starts a fight with the military, and he gets shot, and is like, I think his limbs get ripped off.
Yeah, he doesn't have any arms.
He doesn't have any arms. He briefly talks to Lust and admits, you know, I actually always really loved you. And Lust is like, I have these weird memories of who I used to be, and you were cool. And then Scar's like, all right, I gotta go. And then he goes and he dies, and he's the one who completes the transmutation circle. It kills the military. I think they said later, like 7,000 people. He kills like 7,000 people, including half of Archer.
Yeah, half of Archer.
Half of Archer, which is an important thing to note for later. And then, whenever Ed realizes what's going on, because he's not there, he's like, oh god, and then he rushes, and the city's gone. Like, the city just evaporates, and he's like, oh, that's bad. So then he gets there, and when he gets... Also, I just realized something. The city evaporates, but later when you find the secret city, the buildings are still there.
Yeah. That should have been gone, too.
But then it wouldn't have been a city. We'll talk about that soon. Anyway, so Ed gets there, and he's like, oh god, what happened? And then...
Al, where are you?
And then Al pops up out of the dirt, and he's like, I'm cool! Everything's great! Also, I have something in my tummy. And then he opens
No, he doesn't know. Ed knows.
Or Ed knows.
And he's like, open your chest plate.
And then they find out that Scar has made the Philosopher's Stone. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then Lust appears, and Lust is like, everyone's going to want to kill you. You need to get out of here. And she has already turned on her master, and they start talking around this time about a master, but no one knows who the master is. So then Ed and Al beat it, and they get out of town, and they decide to go back to their hometown of Risenbull, and on their way, they get stopped by Mustang and his group of cronies, and they're fighting and all this stuff, and then finally they corner Ed now, and Mustang's like, I'm not trying to hurt you, I just wanted to know why you never call. And Ed's like, what? And Mustang's like, I want to help you. So then they talk, kind of, and they go back to Risenbull. Or meanwhile, in Risenbull, God, there's so much crazy stuff. Ed's father has showed up out of nowhere, whose real name, by the way, is Hohenheim of Light.
Like...
And we thought that maybe that was like, because Dante, God, now we have to explain Dante. There's so much stuff. The homunculi leader is actually Lyra, who was previously Dante, or who was always Dante, but switched bodies. There's so much stuff to explain. So, the homunculi leader has been switching bodies for hundreds of years, and uses the Philosopher's Stone to do so. And it has like so many...
out of Philosopher's Stone.
It has so many charges in it, and then you can keep switching bodies, but eventually your body starts to rot. So Dante, who has then switched bodies with Lyra, and Lyra has been in the series for most of the series, and you keep seeing it, and you're like, that's weird, why are you here? And then it makes more sense. So she shows up, and she is the leader of the homunculi, and her body is all rotty and stuff. And Hohenheim of Light, who, by the way, is his actual name. I was thinking that maybe that was just a name that Dante knew, like, oh, you're Hohenheim of Light. But
like
no.
His old name, like a...
But that must have been his actual name, because when it's mentioned to Ed at some point, Ed knows who they're talking about. He's like, that's my dad. And I'm like, well, that's a weird name, Ed. That should have been your first tip-off that something was weird about your father. Anyway, so Ed's dad shows up in Risenbull and talks to the family, and then Ed and Al show up, and Al likes his dad, but Ed's like, I don't like you. Why are you here? And then, I don't remember what happened. I think his dad just leaves.
Well...
Right? Because doesn't his dad say, well, I'm gonna go somewhere, and then
disappears.
He disappears and goes to find Dante.
Yeah.
And then... I don't remember what happens there, but...
Whenever he gets to Dante, she's like, you're rotting too. We used to be lovers.
Yeah.
You had to go have a human wife.
There's an entire episode devoted to them just kind of talking about stuff that used to happen between them. So we get like a little bit of backstory there.
And then she kills him.
Yeah.
She said she destroyed his body and soul and mind and separated them all.
Yeah, and then that's all you hear about Hohenheim of Light.
For a bit.
So Ed and Al are home, and they've talked to Mustang a little bit. Mustang now understands that, like, the Fuhrer is a homunculi.
He's like, stay here and stay hidden.
But yeah, Mustang wants to find out for himself.
Yeah.
He wants to know, because, like, he's still a military guy, and he's like, he wants to know exactly what's going on. So Ed and Al stay at home for a while. Ed decides he's going to fight the homunculi himself. He goes and digs up his mom's grave, because it was revealed in one of the past Cours that in order to defeat a homunculi, you have to have the remains of the person that they used to be. And because one of the homunculi is Ed and Al's mom, Ed goes and digs up his mom's grave and pulls out some part of what she had or was or whatever. So anyway, then they go back to...
Well, Mustang goes to Central.
And
he meets with, like, the Council of Military.
Yeah, that's right. He goes and he talks to the Fuhrer and all that stuff. And the Fuhrer knows what's been going on. So the Fuhrer has decided that they're going to start a new war in the north. And he's going to send Armstrong and Mustang to the front lines so they die. So he can kind of cover this up. So Mustang and Armstrong are like, whatever. We know what's going on, but whatever. So they go. And then while they're gone, there's a brief part where those boys that impersonated Ed and Al a million episodes ago...
You're getting too far ahead.
I am? What'd I skip?
Oh, yeah. You skipped the part where Ed goes off to meet with the teacher at Dante's, and then at some point he goes and he does something else, and then that's when Al is like calling Tucker.
Okay, yeah. God, once again, this was probably one of the most confusing things. There's a part where he goes to talk to the teacher, and then he fights Sloth?
Not yet.
Al goes to... Tucker calls Al on the phone. In Risen Bowl. And Tucker's like, hey, I know how to teach you how to use the stone. And Al's like, I love that! And then Al goes to see Tucker, and then Tucker kind of tricks Al, which is so obvious.
Yeah.
And Al's an idiot. But he kind of tricks Al and uses it to create Nina. He uses part of the Philosopher's Stone to create Nina, but Nina has no soul, so it's just like this lifeless kid, but Tucker is also some sort of weird creature with an upside-down head, so they're perfect for each other. So he's all upset, or Al's upset that he was used, and then Ed shows up.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. That's when the homunculi attack.
Yes.
And there's a big battle that ensues, and then Sloth shows up, who is the homunculi that resembles their mom, and they have to kill their mom again. Well, they didn't.
They try to, and then Al is upset, and he takes the remains and throws them out the window, and then they're picked up by Wrath.
And then they have to go get them. But Wrath absorbs the remains into his body, and then...
And Lust is on their side.
Yeah. Anyway, Wrath... Oh, God. Wrath has got the remains, and then Wrath fuses with Sloth to help protect Sloth, but then Sloth dies because Ed knows how to kill homunculi.
And the remains are in Wrath.
And the remains are in Wrath, which means they're in Sloth, which is Sloth's weakness, so Sloth dies, and then Wrath gets burned. And then there's a part where like Wrath is like real upset because Wrath keeps calling Sloth Mom.
He wants to become Ed.
Yeah, because he's like part of Ed.
Yeah.
Sort of. Anyway, so like that all happens. At some point Lust dies. In there, somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't remember how exactly. But Lust dies, and then somewhere Gluttony is like, Lust, and then Gluttony starts getting upset. Meanwhile, I think we can cut to the brothers now.
Yeah.
The guys from a million episodes ago who impersonated Ed now, impersonate Ed now again, get thrown in jail, are ordered to death by the Fuhrer, and then the Fuhrer is like, kill them. Brosh and Ross go down to talk to them and realize it's not Ed now and get them out of prison. And then Ed now meet up with them, and they're like, hey, our dad knew something that maybe you should know, and they have a piece of paper that's like, you should go to a cathedral because that's the real secret Laboratory 5.
They just talked to Ed.
What do you mean?
Because after Sloth gets destroyed, Winry shows up.
Oh, God!
But it's actually Envy. And Envy picks up Al and runs off with him.
That happens, yes. Al is gone somewhere to a secret underground place.
Yes.
And then the brothers give just Ed the secret piece of paper that says maybe you should check out the cathedral because it's the real secret Laboratory 5. And then Ed's like, okay. So he goes to the cathedral, opens up the thing, goes inside, finds out that there's a secret city because...
Well, before that...
Oh my God! What am I missing now?
Mustang and Hawkeye were out on the battlefield, and they're like, we're gonna stage a coup.
Okay,
and then
but that's a side thing.
And then they sneak back, and they are on their way to Fuhrer Bradley's house because he took the night off to go with his son's birthday. And then Ed runs into them, and then they have a chat about what's actually going on and what their plans are, and they finally, like, collaborate.
Yes.
So then Ed goes to the cathedral, and Mustang and Hawkeye go to Bradley's place.
Basically, what happens, to simplify all of that, is that everyone thinks that Mustang is rebelling against the army, because he is, but they think he's in the north, but really, he's secretly still in Central. And then he and Hawkeye are going to go kill the Fuhrer.
Yeah.
That's the simplified version of that. But yes, they do talk to Ed, and then Ed goes to the cathedral. He goes down into the thing, and he finds out that there is a city that has been there for like 400 years. And it used to be the original Central, basically. But it was used to make the Philosopher's Stone, but also only the people and not the buildings, unlike Lior for some reason. And then he goes down there and he meets the people.
Lyra's taking Rose there with the baby.
Yeah, and there's a really weird part where Lyra's like, I know that you love Rose and Rose loves you. And I never, that makes no sense to me. There has never been any inclination that I got from the show that they had a thing for each other. Maybe a vague passing thing, but the way...
Just on Rose's end, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the way Lyra talked was like, you guys have this deep love for each other. And I'm like, I don't think they've ever... Have they spoken much? I don't think they have a love for each other. Like, the show desperately wanted you to care about this relationship that just doesn't exist, which I thought was a little strange. Anyway, while that's going on, back in the Fuhrer's house, Hawkeye is discovered, and then they're like, oh, we found her. And then there's a sound in a basement, and the Fuhrer's like, I'll go check it out. So
I'll go to Central.
So he goes into the basement, and it's Mustang, and Mustang traps them in there, and Mustang's like, we gone, duke it out. Then we jump back to the Cathedral Underground City Opera House thing, because it's an opera house. I don't know what's happening anymore. And all the people are down there, and Ed dies.
No, she does something to his mind.
Wait, how does Ed get onto the other side of the... We never got to the part where we were in... When did that happen?
That happens right about then. It's like he gets down there and she's like, does something, and he goes through the gate, and he wakes up and he's like in London.
Is that when
in World War I?
Yeah, well, how did he do that the first time? How did he get there without dying?
She did it. Lyra did it.
Lyra did... What did she do?
I don't know. She sent him through the gate.
Something happens, and Ed gets to go through the gate, and we find out the gate is Earth. And when he gets to the other side of the gate, it's an alternate reality where it's basically Earth, and there is no alchemy. And it's currently 1921, and World War I is going on. And Ed meets his father,
who's like, hey, this is what's been going on. This is what it means.
And then Ed's father explains that alchemy is not an equal exchange, and that every time you use alchemy on the other side, that you're like hurting something or people on Earth.
In this world, yeah.
Anyway, so that gets explained. He's stuck in Munich for a little bit, but then... Is that when he was dead? That's not when he was dead.
That's when the Zeppelin crashes.
That's when the Zeppelin crashes, and then Ed comes back through the gate.
Yeah.
And he was like, I guess the Ed on Earth must have died for me to come back. And at this point, I'm just staring at the TV like, I have no idea what is happening. And then Alphonse, who has been on the sacrificial altar this entire time, he gets... No, that's when Ed dies, right? Ed comes back.
Ed comes back, and then him and Envy fight.
He kills someone. He learns that Envy was the original homunculus, who was actually Hohenheim's original son.
With Lyra.
With Lyra. Dante. So that happens, but then I don't know...
He gets distracted by that revelation, and then Envy kills him.
So yeah, he comes back, and then he immediately dies. And then Alphonse is like, oh god, you're dead! And then Gluttony has his mind deleted...
Because he was too sad over lust. And then Dante's like, Gluttony, eat Alphonse. And he's like, alright. So he goes over to eat Alphonse, and Alphonse is like, actually, no. I'm the Philosopher's Stone. I don't have to listen to you.
Yeah, and I was like, what? Why did you lay there the whole time then? What's happening? So he just stands up and is like, I'm done with this mess. And then everyone...
He goes over to Ed.
Does he kill everyone? Because there's a part where he's like, I'm blue! And then the room fills up with blue, and then whenever he gets up, everyone's gone.
Well, Rose and the baby survive.
Rose and the baby survive.
And
Dante runs away.
And Gluttony gets out too.
Yeah, so everyone runs away.
But Envy dies.
Yeah, Envy dies, I guess.
Yeah.
So he goes over to Ed, who had just died like 2 minutes ago, and he's like, I got this. I am the stone. And he touches Ed, and then all of a sudden, Ed wakes up, and he's alive. And he's like, oh god, what happened? And Rose is like, Alphonse killed himself to make you better. And Ed has his original arm and leg back, but also Wrath got them ripped off.
At some point.
I forgot to mention it, whatever. So Ed is alive, and he's like, cool, but then he's like, wait, no, my brother. So then even though he's just been brought back to life, he draws the circles all over his body and makes a new transmutation circle so he can go get Al. And then he does the transmutation, and then the show ends. And during the end credits is when the last crap is revealed for the show. And it basically...
Well, you didn't wrap up the thing with Mustang and the Fuhrer.
Oh, you're right. Mustang kills the Fuhrer.
Yeah, because his son had his skull but didn't know it was his original body part skull.
There was a part slightly earlier we forgot to mention where the Fuhrer talks to his son because his son saw him putting something in a safe one night, and he's like, Dad, what was that? And he's like, son, I'm going to give you the key to this safe, and this is how I live, so be careful with it. And the son was like, okay. And then when they got all the family out, the little boy ran back. Because friggin' Colonel Archer was there also. Yeah. We forgot to mention that. Colonel Archer came back, and he's a cyborg. Don't worry about it. So he's heading back to the Fuhrer's house, and the little boy gets out of the car, runs back to his dad, and goes into the safe and gets this thing. He doesn't even know what it is, and he brings it to his dad.
Daddy, I wanted to make sure the fire wouldn't hurt this.
Yeah.
So I saved it for you, and he's like, you fool.
Because, once again, the homunculi's weakness is their original remains, and it's the skull of the guy who he was. Mm-hmm. And the little boy doesn't even know. So it's just this little, 5-year-old boy. He's like, I brought this to you, Dad. And then he kills him. He reaches down and strangles the little boy until, presumably, he's dead. But it gives Mustang the upper hand, so Mustang can kill the Fuhrer. That wasn't convoluted at all.
And then the car that was going with the boy got into a crash with Archer's car, which is why the boy could get out and run.
And
Hawkeye's after Archer.
Yep.
And then Archer goes to the Fuhrer's house and shoots Mustang. And Hawkeye gets there and kills Archer. And then she runs up to Mustang and she's like, live.
It's a little odd to me because there's a scene with Archer fighting Teacher and all these guns are blazing.
That was at Central when they were trying to get the other...
Yeah, earlier.
The fake Elric brothers
It just seems really weird because Archer's fine, and then Hawkeye shoots him 3 times in the shoulder with a handgun and he dies. And I'm like, what? Okay, so your weakness was getting shot in the shoulder. Cool, good to know. Anyway, so then the show resolves. We're treated with end credits, a long end credits where they also continue to wrap up everything. Mustang is alive. The entire state gets unmilitarized by the original Council of People. Ed has managed to restore Alphonse to his body. They said that they found Alphonse near their home in Risenbull, and he was 10 years old, mm-hmm. and he had no recollection of anything that happened. And that Ed got sent back to Munich with his dad. So Ed is now stuck in Munich with his memories, and he knows that Alphonse is on the other side, but he's not actually sure if he saved him.
Yeah.
But everyone has explained to Alphonse what happened, so Alphonse is like, I want to study alchemy so I can get my brother back. And then the show ends.
Oh, and Dante gets eaten by Gluttony.
Yes. Dante
Gluttony is still out there.
Gluttony. Yes. Presumably.
Yeah.
We presume all of that, but yeah. Man. Oh, and Wrath is alive still.
Yes.
In fact, they gave Wrath automail.
Yeah.
And then Wrath runs away.
Yeah.
So I want to start by saying that I did enjoy this Cour. I will also be very honest in saying that it was the most convoluted thing I think I've ever seen. There was so much each episode where I was like, what? It was like every episode felt like there was some element that was so far out of left field that was like, oh my god, what the heck is happening? And it was entertaining, but compared to the rest of the show, the absurdity of this last 10 episodes was just shot way up, because I was like, what's happening? Honest to God, I think the problem I had with it is that they were trying to do a lot of crazy stuff,
yeah,
and they only had 10 episodes to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If it would have been stretched out over, 30 episodes, and they could have explained little details a little bit more and eased into some of the stuff, I think it would have worked better. But the fact that they had to, every episode was guess what? Absurd fact. And you're like,
here's
what?
Munich.
What? I don't understand.
Or London.
Yeah, like I remember whenever they got sucked through the gate and they wound up on the other side of, when they wound up in London.
Yeah, and
I was like,
Churchill needs to see you.
I was like,
Hohenheim of Light.
I really was like, where are we anymore? I don't, because too much stuff happened too fast. There was too many things that were explained, like, you know, gigantic plot points were explained very quickly all of a sudden at the end, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. So, I mean, I feel like we understand now.
Yeah.
We got the story down, but it's like, gracious sakes. Anyway, so this is the end of the show, but not really. You have to watch the Conquerors of Shambhala movie, which we also fortunately have. So we're going to be watching that and then talking about not only that movie review, but then Fullmetal Alchemist as a whole. And I have very positive things to say about the show, so don't worry about that. This last Cour was weird.
It was crazy.
Really weird, but it didn't really impact, so far, like, my opinion of the show. But we're going to be watching the movie really soon. So if you're into the Fullmetal Alchemist review stuff, stay tuned. Probably within the next day or so, we'll watch the film and then talk about that, and also the entire series.
And then we'll start Brotherhood.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna watch something else in between. I don't know what yet, but then we'll watch Brotherhood and find out how because Brotherhood's different.
Yeah,
it's a different show. I'm actually really excited about that because, like, I'm kind of wondering if it's as absurd as this. Probably not. It'd be hard to top the absurdity factor here. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, let's meet back tomorrow, shall we?